So, yeah, you thought Batman was just like, I'm sick of
yeah,
that.
I thought that's like, they killed Rachel. I was like, he didn't end up picking her.
It's like, yeah, Rachel, keep playing games. Hey, what's happening, guys? I am your host, Chad. This is my co-host,
Maple.
And today we are going to be reviewing The Dark Knight from 2008. This is Maple's first time having just seen it moments ago. And Maple, what'd you think about it?
I actually really like this movie.
Yeah?
Yeah, definitely had I had to have waited for, the first movie and then this movie, I'd be really excited that this is how this turned out. It was really good. Yeah.
Yeah. But how did you feel about this one versus the first one?
This one felt more serious and a little less theatrical. I don't know if that would be a good term for it.
I think I see what you mean.
Because I think my critique in the first one was some of the acting wasn't as good as I thought it could be. The fight scenes were different, and it was very, sporadic and very much like this Batman, and it was just a bunch of, just fast movement, crazy stuff, and it just being probably his origin story, I can only do so much with that, but this was kind of finally, we're getting into something, and diving deeper into Gotham and not so much this, secluded blip of his life where he doesn't really fit into everything else around him. We're kind of now seeing what's actually going on.
Gotham, now that Batman's already a presence in their life, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's some of the action choreography you're talking about, I feel like they did kind of slow down, kind of back it up a little bit, let it play, read a little better on screen.
Yeah.
Also getting to now that he is established in the world, you kind of have that opportunity to kind of live with the effects of Batman in this world versus just getting to know, who everyone is and kind of just establish everybody. So yeah, let's get into the movie.
All right.
Movie opens with the bank heist scene. What'd you think of that?
Yeah, there was a lot going on. It was a lot of confusion because they start killing each other.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think, and my initial thought is do bank heists actually happen like that? Probably not. I've also never seen a vault that looks like that.
Old school.
Yeah.
I think a lot of, if you go to New York probably, because the buildings are that old,
yeah,
they probably have them because it's just cool and it kind of looks like, it's the heritage. But they
safety
probably
deposit box room.
That's probably what it is now.
Thing.
Or it's offices or something,
yeah.
They probably still keep the, this is a 150-year-old vault. But certainly they don't have bags of
locking up in there.
Bags of money with dollar signs on them anymore.
Sure.
No, yeah, it's all digital now. But I like the scene because I think it establishes the first thing you see from the Joker is that he's very good at coming up with very complex schemes and plans, right?
He was always a step ahead.
Which is cool because it establishes how he is. So later when he talks to Harvey Dent and he says, I'm not a schemer, I don't have plans, I'm just a dog chasing cars, you're like, bullshit. We know for a fact that's not true because the first thing I saw you do was a really intricate step-by-step plan. Right.
Yeah. Well, and then you get him, every time he talks about his scars, it's a different story or a different tale that he's come up with.
Yeah, real quick, what was your overall feeling of the Joker?
This character, I don't know, he's a very in the moment type of person. He's when he's, I don't know, it's he is and he's also not. He's confusing, the whole thing. He's a confusing character because you don't understand, because it's kind of the same as when we watch Joker. It's almost like he's believable yet he's not. What's the word? I'm just entranced by it. It's, you get looped in. It just, he sucks you in and then you're stuck.
How did you feel about this Joker versus the other Joker? I think it would be unfair to talk about who was better, but how did you just feel about how they were portrayed? I feel like they were both portrayed so differently.
Yeah, they are portrayed very differently. Because it's almost like in this movie, there's not but it's hard because the other, seeing it from the other movie, you get more of a backstory on him.
Oh, yeah. The other one is a human.
Yeah.
And this guy's an entity that comes from the underworld. From nothing.
And
you can't even get a backstory that's accurate because he keeps changing it. So you just feel like you know nothing about him by the time it's over.
Yeah, you really don't know much about this Joker by the time it's over. Like I said, because he keep changing the story about himself. And I think the story that Alfred shares with about the ruby So, and having to burn the whole forest down kind of does a good way of describing Joker in this movie. It's like Joker just wants to see everything burn. And that is kind of how it appears to be. Whether or not that's actually true or not, because Joker himself changes his story so many times. But the other Joker, like Joker with Joaquin, where there's almost like a tone of sentiment that you want to hold for him as a character, just because of the state of his life and what he had been through, and then him being almost pushed to that point and not having any help. So, yeah, I don't know. But the acting, this was so good. It was so good. The other movie, Joker, is more artful.
Yeah.
This was still too, though. Like, there was still some really good, like, just visuals. Yeah, so...
More than certain other more accessible, like, comic book movies. I think this is definitely, like, the top end as far as, like, bridging to that art feel.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, there were some... Like, when he's getting interrogated, it's all dark behind him. And then, of course, Batman pops out. He's like, yeah! Like, hits him in the head. But, like, even that, like, just looking at the contrast of how they use the lighting there.
Oh, yeah.
And it's all dark behind him, but you can still see his face. I don't know. It's just stuff like that. Like, I don't know that the MCU or, like, other movies that I've seen that are related to superheroes have really done that. Like, had used lighting or specific angles or focal points to create, like, dramatic effects in specific scenes. Also not as serious, yeah. Like...
Well, or that shot, like, after Rachel dies and he's standing in the rubble of all of it. I think that whole shot is just so beautiful, and, like, the blue tones that they use.
Yeah.
And I think some of the... Marvel will sometimes do this thing, and I think that Civil War is a great example of it, where they will make references to things that are very sad, and they expect the idea of it to carry a lot of weight for you.
Yeah.
But they don't really, like, dwell in it and let you live in it as much. And this movie, I think, spends a little more time letting you kind of, like, feel the bad.
Yeah, I'm glad there wasn't as much, like, comedic relief.
Right.
Like...
A lot of it actually comes from the Joker, and he's such a... dark-minded person.
It's like you can giggle, but it's kind
but you're like, it feels dirty.
Yeah.
For instance, you know, Rachel dies. We spend that time with him sitting there, and then he finds the coin, I believe. Which, real quick too, are you familiar with the Batman villain Two-Face?
No, but I was like, okay, this must be another villain.
Yeah. You did? At least you made that connection, though.
Yeah. So it's almost like you get bad guys on bad guys in this movie. It's like there's like layers, and I actually like that a lot, because then it's kind of, it adds more. There's so much going on. It's not like we're just like, yes, it is it mainly Joker? Absolutely, but there's so much more outside of that, and I like that they put it all together.
Well, the fun theme that is the through line with Two-Face that makes him so important is that basically top down what this movie was kind of about is Batman knows that Gotham needs more than just Batman punching crime in its turkey neck, right? So he wants some kind of... Also, he wants to be with Rachel. And Rachel, when she looked different, told him before that maybe someday Gotham won't need Batman anymore, and then we could be together. So he's kind of thinking like, okay, I need to not have to be Batman anymore so I can be with my best girl. And
is it terrible to say that I, like... It's bad that Rachel died, but, like, I wasn't really, like, so sad about it.
She's kind of a Debbie Downer, man.
She, like, the toxicity level is through the roof.
She does like to play games.
Yes, I'm like, and then I'm like, you can only reject Batman so many times before
he becomes a villain.
He doesn't save you, which I know wasn't his intention.
Yeah, it was
but
Joker swapped.
He picked that guy.
No, he actually didn't. Joker swapped.
Joker swapped.
He gave him the opposite.
That's why I was confused, and I was like, how'd they end up swapping? So I guess that makes sense. He gave them the opposite.
And it's like, no, you're supposed to save Rachel. So yeah, you thought Batman was just like, I'm sick of that.
Yeah, I thought that's kind of what I thought happened. I was literally sitting here thinking the whole time. I was like, damn. I was like, they killed Rachel. I was like, he didn't end up picking her.
It's like, yeah, Rachel, keep playing games.
My brain for some reason was like, oh, he just went to the opposite location. Like, he just went to the other location.
No, because he's so whipped.
Instead.
He's so whipped for someone who's been nothing but rude to him for the last 7 years.
I know. If only he had read the letter. But, like, then I'm just like, this girl has got commitment issues. She's telling both these men yes. And then writing a letter to be like, actually, JK, open it when the time permits. Or
when the time is right. You'll know.
Well, I guess when you're dead, it's still not right. Burned it.
And I love that. I think that was so, that's what I was going to say about like some of the artfulness with like them letting you sit in the feelings is like that moment of him sitting there being like, you know, she was going to, you know, leave him for me. And he's like, what's that? And he's like, it can wait, you know, something that can wait. And then Alfred burns the letter. Like, I just think, I don't see a Marvel movie doing that scene.
Oh, no.
You know? So I really like how they let you kind of be in your feels about that.
Yeah, sit in the feeling.
So I have to get into, but just real quick on, you know, Dent is that, Two-Face is a very popular rogues gallery supervillain that, you know, or villain. Batman rarely has supervillains. That's been around forever. So his name has always been Harvey Dent. So for the comic book fans, it was fun to be like, ooh, Harvey Dent. Like, uh-oh, he's going to turn into Two-Face. And that's why when he's in the hospital, he's like, what was it, you know, Gordon, that your guys used to call me down at the precinct? And he's like, oh, I don't remember. He's like, what was it? And he's like, Two-Face. And so, like, that's already kind of been established. And so, of course, Two-Face's whole thing is that he has, like, horrible burns on one half of his face. And he has a famous coin that he uses to make all of his decisions. And half of it is effed up and the other half isn't. And so in this one, they did it by having that he's got a double face coin, and then because of the fire, one half is burned and stuff. So it's really cool to see them work that all into the story. But Alfred to me, in Greek plays, they would have a thing called a chorus. And it was kind of the, like, for the people who fell asleep during the play, here's kind of what is happening, or here's kind of the theme. And I feel like he's the Greek chorus of this movie.
That would make sense, yeah.
You brought up his story about Burma, right? I made a whole video essay about this. You guys can check it out. Batman in Act 1 cannot defeat the Joker as he is in Act 1. The Joker is attacking him in an area that Batman is weak, which is his extremely strict moral kind of code that he has.
Yeah. His one rule.
I only have one rule. And he was like, oh, well, that's the rule you're going to have to break. And that was his thing, too.
Even though I'm just like, there's no way people haven't come out of that unwell.
I know, right?
Like...
Him and his little... Why do you have so many blades, Batman,
that's another
if you
thing.
don't
like, at the beginning,
I
didn't realize there was a Batman pretending to be a Batman imposter. And I was just like, what are with the guns? Like the gun. I'm like, but then even then, it's like actual Batman is also still using guns. I'm like,
what do you use a gun for?
You can't tell me that blowing up buildings and all this other stuff that no one is not dying.
No one's dying. Or when
casualties.
Or when that truck flips.
Yeah.
You're right.
I know. Well, and then like they crawl out, and Joker crawls out, and I'm like, man, he must have had his seatbelt on.
Yeah, dude. Everyone wears their seatbelt in the back. They're just tuckered out, man. They burn so much energy fighting Batman. They get real sleepy. So he's like, but what happens? He's got this like really strict rule set of beliefs, right? Even to the point when he talks to Alfred, he's like, you know, well, he just wants what criminals want. They want money or what, you know, they're just scum. He can't think deeper. He has this kind of elementary school kid idea of life. And Alfred starts to tell him this story about how when I was in Burma, you know, we were trading with this warlord, and then this bandit came and he ended up stealing our, you know, payments from him. And we looked for 6 months and no one had done any trading with him. And then I saw a child down at the ocean with a ruby the size of a tangerine. And he's like, you know, so what was it? And he's like, it was just because it was good sport, because some men can't be bought. Some men just want to watch the world burn. So that lets us know what Joker's all about. But it goes deeper, because what happens is in the beginning, you know, Batman is underestimating this guy. He can't really deal with him. In Act 2, Rachel ends up dying and totally breaks Batman down to like his core. And when the scene happens where Michael Caine, when Alfred was going to give him the letter, he's like, hey, did you ever catch that bandit? And he's like, yes, sir. And he's like, how did you do it? And he says, we burned down the forest. That is a chorus for what is going to happen with Batman, where Batman in Act 1 establishes the sonar technology with Fox. Yeah. And at the end of the movie, he's like, I can use the sonar technology to hook it up to all these people's phones and break their privacy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And Fox looks right at the camera and says, this is wrong. I will resign if you do this. Right. Yeah. Letting you know that is Batman's burning down the forest. And so that's how he captures the bandit himself. And so I think the whole story that Alfred tells is almost the play of the movie within the smaller story within, which I think was really cool idea.
Yeah, foreshadowing on point. Yes, it was amazing.
And again, these are things that I just don't feel like I always get from other comic book movies.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Like, it's very, like, that's what I was saying. Everything seems very well, like, thought out and planned. And then it's all very, like, well articulated, either non-verbally, through visuals, through, like, letting the moments settle and sit through other characters, like Alfred coming in and using the story. Yeah, it's all really good. So it doesn't even feel like the movie was 2.5 hours long.
Yeah. Because it's gripping.
Yeah, because you're just on with it the whole time. So.
And then at the end, we have another huge theme that is the Joker is kind of trying to sell, and he succeeds with Harvey, which again, I like that too. Thematically.
Yeah, but he doesn't with the greater, like.
With the boats.
With the boats,
right.
Yeah, with the majority.
So on one hand, Batman's goal in the movie is I need to replace myself. I need the White Knight to replace the Dark Knight. And the White Knight will be the one who can fight the crime through the legal system during the day so that they don't need me to go punch crime in his face at night. And Joker, his whole real goal is like, I'm going to turn that guy into a psychopath, which is a direct reference to an old comic called The Killing Joke, where the Joker tries to explain. And that's also where the multiple backgrounds came from. Every time he tells a story, it's different. And his whole shtick is that, like, I was a normal guy like you, and I'm trying to prove that one really bad day could make a guy just like me. And he kind of pulls this off with Harvey Dent. But then he has this theory that he can extrapolate this idea to everybody. And that's when we get to see in the boat thing. How did that strike you? Because I was so moved that both of them decided not to. I think on one hand, you kind of know they won't. But like when Debo shows up and like he's like, give me the, the trigger.
Yeah, and I'll do something. Yeah,
I'll do what you should have done 5 minutes ago or whatever.
Yeah. Well, my thing is too, no one really contemplated that there could potentially be innocent people on the other boat too, like even though they took the boat that had what would be their criminals, you know? And it's like there's still innocent people on both sides. Yeah. Regardless. And you have the people of this, who are still in civilization trying to reason. They ended up voting, so technically, yeah. I mean, they all voted to blow up the other boat. So in essence, it's like Joker is kind of right.
Well, that's the hard part is I think you still leave the movie being like, the movie might have a nicer perspective of people than I do in real life.
Yeah, like, because they all voted, like, the vote. And at that point, it's just seeing it through. But they all voted. Well, and it also made their votes.
For me, it's kind of like, do that in real life, see what happens.
Yeah, like 300-something people voted.
Like 4 seconds, the other both votes explode.
Go through with it, yeah.
Everyone's in a hurry to press the button.
Yeah, and like they feel justified. They're like, those people already made their decision.
Right.
It's like...
Right. Yeah, because they have like the Karen person on the one boat and then the guy who's like the male Karen. And then they've got the criminals. Where,
the Ken and Karen.
Yeah, the Ken and Karen who are both just doing the whole like, proper criminal.
Yeah.
Those people had their chance and throw them away.
It's almost better to see them, you know what I mean? Like, and the people who are supposed to be the bad people, like literally like he threw it out the window.
Which like, that particular part, that warmed my heart.
And he just throws it out the window and it's just like...
Warm the cockles of my heart.
Yeah.
And then Batman does finally have to have his kind of, fist fight with the guy.
But Joker even mentions, he's like, you think that I'm going to do this in a fist fight with you? Like,
which again counteracts him saying to Two-Face, I'm just a dog chasing cars. I wouldn't know what to do with if I got one. It's like those guys are schemers. He's like, Harvey Dent, he's a schemer. Batman, he's a schemer. I'm not a schemer. You prove every chance you get that you are a schemer, But
I mean to say, like, if he's a dog chasing a car, like, he would know that, like, a dog would never be able to get the car. But you know what I mean? It's just like there's so many layers to everything that he's saying.
So Batman beats him up and he even says, like, oh, you thought that I staked, the soul of Gotham on a fist fight with you? Like, you're the fist fight guy. And that's what I always say is, like, you can't attack the hero where they're strong. that's boring. Watching the Hulk fight the Abomination is not that interesting because they're just both big, strong guys.
Right.
Joker is fighting Batman left of just, I'm just going to come fist fight you. And he even says, like, of course my plan wasn't to go fist fight you. That's what you're good at. I'm going to fight you where you're weak. And so then, you know, the thing he ends up getting is tainting that White Knight. And now we have this other villain with Two-Face, you know, who goes on his kind of rampage. And he's a very fast burn villain. He's not like a big, complicated, you know, thing.
Yeah.
Most of his complexity comes from who we knew him as.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So then we kind of have a pretty simple, you know, breakdown of him trying to kill Gary Oldman's, you know, son.
Yeah.
And then Batman just kind of pushes him off a roof. I'm going to be honest.
Basically,
I'm not in love
that's
with
what
all
I'm
that.
saying. Well,
yeah. It's a little simple.
It's very simple.
I wish there was a bit more to it.
Yeah, it's such a lackluster for such a build up of character.
Right. It just is kind of like, hey, we're running out of time, guys.
In my brain, I was sitting there thinking, and the moment was just really intense, so I didn't say it in the reaction. But again, it's like Batman basically killed him.
He pushes him off.
You pushed him. Like, just because he maybe stumbled, like, you're still at fault.
That's second degree.
Like, yes, exactly. Like, that is literally second. Like, to shove him might have been one thing, and then, oh no, like, what is Batman's justification in that?
Or he, like, grabs his arm, and then he like, lets go or something.
Yeah, like, I pushed him, but he, like, stumbled, and then he fell.
He just tackled him.
You were the catalyst of that entire range of movement, and also, he's dead now because you pushed him. Batman definitely killed that man.
Not completely sure why Batman didn't die either.
Yeah, he straight up got shot in the stomach.
Maybe he landed on him. No, but I mean from the fall. Because you can argue that his suit is bulletproof, but like that's not going to help you with falling off a building.
Well, one of the concerns was that the suit was, because they made it lighter. Right? It wasn't as
So maybe you're thinking when he gets shot that like that
I was
got
thinking
him.
When he got shot that maybe it was not going to be good for him.
But they also didn't really make a meal out of that either. He just kind of shoots him and he goes, ugh, and then goes off screen.
And like disappears like Batman. Just got shot.
And then it's like he goes to flip his coin and then Batman.
Again, he's just like just jumps on in there.
Like a linebacker. Another big standout scene is the party scene where Joker runs into Rachel. And that's where I think we get the first, you know how I got these scars?
Well, no, the first, you know how I got these scars was him making the story about his dad.
To gamble before he kills him?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my father was a drinker and a fiend. Yeah, that one. Okay, I remember that.
Because that's when they're talking with them. And they're like, oh, we got the Joker, 500,000. And then Joker's like, yeah! He's like, not dead.
Why so
playing possum.
serious?
Yeah, and then that's the first time you kind of see him.
Right.
And it's so weird. Like, it's just so many people that, like, randomly follow through with him.
Well, at that one point, you realize he's picked up a lot of people from, like, the psych ward and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, because they make a comment about Batman's like, what do you think you're going to get out of this one guy?
Yeah, he's crazy.
He has schizophrenia. Like, he has all this stuff. Like, what are you expecting to get?
Well, and the guy with the cell phone in his stomach, same thing. You know, he's like, he said he was going to make it like Christmas. You know, there's going to be lights inside. So it's all...
my head,
So he's finding all these, like, crazy people. So at least that explains a little more. That's not, like, normal mooks, you know, who are hanging out with them.
I know. It's kind of sad. It's like the bad guys are a little sick themselves, but then they just prey on the sicker people. But then it's almost like that's kind of what their government does too. So they're just doing what everyone else is doing, just more efficiently.
It's very interesting that you saw Joker first. Because, like, all the social commentary is almost gone in these movies. They don't
really show you much of the people.
It's about the Joker's bad and Batman's got to stop him. It's not about the Joker is a symptom of our climate sociologically, and Batman has billions of dollars, and Bruce Wayne could, in theory, do a lot more work to help everybody than Batman could.
Yeah.
If you saw these first, I think the simplicity of the story wouldn't be so off-putting.
It wouldn't.
And then you'd be like us, who then saw Joker, and we're like, oh, that makes way more sense.
Yeah. Why that's all happening the way that it is. But
what an interesting
I got
take.
his origin, and now I'm watching this, and I'm just like, oh no.
Well, so that's another fun thing. I don't think you can, because that origin's made up. you know, for the Joker movie. In the comics, traditionally, Joker has never had
That's good to know. I wouldn't know that.
Right. They've kind of done a million of them, but the idea is they're not canon. Like, there's no, you know, he's an entity. He's very much a victim. Yeah. And this Joker is a go-getter. This Joker is very, like, type A. Like, he goes out and makes things happen.
Like, it's, like, very obvious, like, he knows what he's doing.
Right,
He is methodical. Like, he is thinking about what he's doing and why.
He didn't need some social revolution to come alongside with him to make anything happen. He could just do it, you know? So I think it's very cool to see two extremely different interpretations of the same character. And I love both of them a lot. Like, I just think they're both really good. I think this Joker is just probably one of the best things I've ever seen.
Yeah, dude, Heath Ledger, people were not kidding.
Yeah, nuts, right?
Yeah, exactly. Ding,
ding, ding.
Yeah,
Heath Ledger,
on the point.
That's the Heath Ledger ding, ding.
He doesn't feel like he fits in with the rest of the acting around him. He puts and it's not, no one's doing a bad job.
Right.
But I mean, like, he put people to shame.
Oh, yeah.
He was so invested in that, like, I don't, like, just in it, like.
Well, and that's what I mean by that Rachel scene at the party where it's, like, just that whole, and the camera spinning around the two of them as he's explaining, like, you know, I just want her to know that I don't mind the scars, you know? So, like, I do this to myself, and now she can't stand this side of me, you know, like, all that.
Well, and even just his smaller mannerisms.
Like licking his lips all the time.
Or like how he he kind of hangs his jaw. Like it's very like like there's just things that are natural to his character that there was so much consistency through the whole film. It was just incredible.
And he has the crazy maniacal laugh that I totally buy without them having to explain that it was like neurological damage or anything. It's just kind of his, you know.
And he does the voice too. He does the voice well.
Yes.
The voice
very
is
weird.
So good.
Yeah. My favorite little line from him is probably when he's being held.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. In that scene too, when he's like, "How many of your friends did I kill?"
That's what I was getting to.
Yeah. And he's like,
you know, in a certain way, I know your friends better than you ever did. Yeah. You want to know which of them were cowards. Like, Jesus! That is dirty. It's such a good line mixed with such a perfect delivery of the line.
He foreshadows his plan, though, in that moment. And it connects once he's explaining it to Batman that he's like, you know, you really see who people truly are, like, up to the, like, in that last moment or in that, like, desperate moment. And so that's like literally what he was doing the whole time was getting people. He's trying to get people to their
Two-Face, you know.
Yeah,
Harvey.
Exactly. Yeah. So then when he's explaining, it's like he's been telling everybody the whole time. He's almost like very open about, but nobody's catching.
Well, he's just a super genius kind of villain, you know. Like that's the thing. Batman is excellent at punching his way through problems. So he's presented with an obstacle he can't punch his way through.
He's the Kyle of the
he's the Kyle.
And Gotham is his drywall.
Gotham's the drywall, and unfortunately the Joker is not a drywall that you can just put holes in. I mean, literally they do it on the nose. He beats the crap out of him in the interrogation room, and he's laughing at him like nothing you can do with all your strength.
Also,
you know?
Then he even critiques him. He's like, never start with the head. Like he's like, you'll get all fuzzy.
Punches him in the hand. He's like, see?
Yeah, like he critiques his own Batman's only mode, which is punching and
which is also like he wants Batman to be at his best because at the end he's like, you know, what, you gonna kill me or whatever? And he's like, I'm not gonna kill you. Like he's like, you complete me, you know, like that. And that, you know, had he not passed, that establishes this idea that Joker and Batman are like as old as, you know, time. And they are kind of cursed to need each other. It's kind of like they both exist because of the other one. All right, let's see what the commenters had to say.
All right. Echo Fist?
Echo Fist. All right, Echo Fist.
It has to be Echo Fist.
It's possibly Echo Fist.
E-C.
Or it's Becco Fist.
E-C-H-O. Echo Fist. Echo Fist.
Echo Fist. Echo Fist wants to let us know. First, let me tell you the apocryphal story. So in the scene where the Joker blows up the hospital, it has been a very well spread theory, or I don't know, like anecdote, that when he goes and starts hitting the little clicker to get the building to explode and it doesn't seem to be going for a second and then it starts to explode and he's like, that it actually was supposed to explode and that it wasn't going off and he kept messing with it and finally got it to explode and then finished the scene through improv. That's very fun. There's a couple holes in that theory, though. One of the issues is obviously he would not be controlling that. There would be pyrotechnic technicians that are doing it. And the other theory is that that's actually worked into the scene because also he doesn't miss any beats with like getting onto the bus on time so that they can leave and everything explodes very cinematically. The idea of what really was going on is that it was actually that was written into the scene to give him time to get distance from the building so that when it explodes, he doesn't, die.
Yeah.
So Eat Your Fist says, well, there's this well-known malfunction during the hospital explosion, that comical delay the Joker takes when the exposition stop wasn't scripted. When the explosion stop wasn't scripted. It was a failure in a fuse and Heath Ledger just ran with it. Christopher Nolan was a few seconds from yelling cut when the fuse went off and the scene continued as normal. So he is perpetuating that idea. But then there's people in the comments you guys can go see who are explaining some of the things that I said. So I wanted to bring it up because a handful of people wanted to talk about that scene. It's very famously been talked about, but there's been a lot of contention about the veracity of that scene since then. Yeah, so as you also just found out a second ago, Oscar Cardenas is letting us know that Heath Ledger died before he won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, and his family received it for him. Super tragic, but it is... Talk about going out on an Oscar performance, It was part of why it was very... I'm not normally a super... it sucks to see anyone die, but like when celebrities die, it doesn't normally ruin my day. I don't know these people. But with this one, I remember the thing that got me so much was just that it felt like he was finally like coming into his own. I always liked him, and he was always in kind of like, 10 Things I Hate About You and A Knight's Tale. And they were all like fine, kind of like the bigger end of smaller movies. And this felt like the one that was going to it's going to really put him on the map. And he's a young guy. Yeah. Super proud of him. Like, great job, dude. Like, you've done it. And then it stuck to see it all just kind of like that star get snuffed out, right at that point, which was really disappointing. But yeah, I mean, it is cool though that like, his family getting to receive the Best Supporting Actor. I think he absolutely deserved it. Much more than Christian Bale would have deserved an Oscar for. Yeah, no offense, but he just doesn't have much to do. And he also made choices like doing Batman voice even when he's not in the suit for some reason. That came up once or twice. Yeah. The part where he's like dragging Harvey away, he's like doing the Batman voice, and it's like, you're not in the suit, and the person you're talking to knows you're Batman. Why are you doing the voice? He can't help it.
I know.
Oh man.
Well, and then it's just like scenes where he's just like when he intercepts that truck from hitting the car while they're transporting. He's in the back of the truck and his Lamborghini gets smashed. And then he's like, shouldn't you guys be like taking me to the hospital or something?
His version of...
It's like, oh my God.
Who he thinks Bruce Wayne.
Sell it a little bit more. And he's like... Yeah. I don't know, I was just trying to make the light.
It's like when he played drunk in the first movie. Yeah.
Where it's like, it's not,
I know.
You should have, I don't know, the acting sometimes from him could just be a little bit better.
Anyone ever noticed that Bruce Wayne seems like a terrible actor? I wonder if he's Batman.
Why would a lunatic, some lunatic would be in a bat suit? Jeez. It's just he could have worked that out a little bit more.
This would be a funny skit, like Batman who gets caught, because Bruce Wayne's always like, oh yeah, that guy. You guys know that guy. Doesn't he seem so weird?
Yeah.
Seems like a total loser to me. And everyone's like, why do you always bring him up? No one was even talking about Batman. I don't know. I'm just saying, it seems like a nut job. Woohoo!
Who knows? Yeah, literally.
A couple of screws loose, if you ask me.
So funny.
Are you Batman?
That's the only, and it's sad to say, but for me, it's the only thing that kind of just, lessens the movie. It's a good movie.
No, I know what you mean, yeah.
And, luckily, Heath Ledger, that's so good. The acting.
Right.
And everything around it. Yeah, the cinematography. He really does. That's what I'm saying. That man carried the fucking team.
He really did.
If it had been any other way, this movie could have been horrible.
Well, if he wasn't in it, it would just be Batman Begins, which is, you got to see what it's like when he's not in it, Yeah. That's what you get when Joker's not in it.
I know. Joker adds a little spice.
Yeah, Heath Ledger, man. He held it down. He really did. It's cool too, because you're probably the only person in the universe who has seen it in reverse order. All of us were comparing Joaquin Phoenix to his performance, and you got to see the Joaquin one first, so that's really fun.
Yeah, Joaquin did a good job. That was still good for that movie.
So speaking of that,
so
Billy Reynolds has a question for you concerning that.
Okay.
Would you be interested in Joaquin playing the Joker in a Batman movie? Because that's the thing. I would argue that Joaquin is so perfect for his movie, like you just said. But this Joker is a Joker that fits better possibly in a Batman world.
I wonder... See, and there might be other opinion, but I think that I would prefer to see Joaquin in other things, and then I think I would know. You know what I mean? I haven't seen anything else with Joaquin Phoenix. This is the first time I've ever seen.
Good to hear, because we'll do more, because he's in my top 3 like greatest actors of all time.
Perfect.
So that's cool, because there's more to see from him for sure.
I think that to be able to answer that question, I would need a little bit more time.
So I get
but
that.
I trust what you're saying, because obviously you know movies coming in. But
I don't necessarily, though, mean just on like his acting chops. I mean that portrayal, that kind of Joker. Would you be interested in seeing like that version of him in another in a world where there's like a Batman that he has to deal with? Because
I think it would make Batman's life difficult just on a different level. Because it's not so much. I think that would really remove Batman from being like, well, what does he do? Because he can't really. What is he like? Fist fight him?
He's gonna go punch him, and then you're gonna be like, hey man, he's got problems.
Yeah, like it would almost be like it would completely immobilize Batman. Yeah. Like Batman can't exist.
You're gonna hit a guy with glasses, and that's what a lot of people have said. They said like this Joker, part of why the two work, even though they're so different, is because this one is kind of what you need from a Joker if there's gonna be a Batman in the movie, and the other one can work because there is no Batman. The other problem is that this one is still a little bit heightened reality. He still feels a little bit unreal, and the Joaquin Phoenix Joker feels almost too real to the point where if a Batman were to show up in his movie, all of a sudden it'd be like, what the fuck? I don't buy that there's a guy running around with a cape. Like, there's no way. Yeah. It feels just like straight up 1980 New York, you know? It's like, there's no way there's a Batman in that universe. It feels too realistic.
And everything with this Joker is very grand still, because that's kind of what
still got
how Joaquin was. And like, but
you mean that? Okay.
With what he chooses to do,
right? Like, the performance and stuff.
Yeah. But even just the character too. Like, I remember thinking like the other Joker at times, like certain things were like overkill, literally. Whereas this one, it's kind of like, I don't know why it felt different.
Well, and he can be a little reserved, right? You know.
Yeah, I think? Like there's still kind of this like
he lights that big pile of money on fire, and he's like, it's okay, it's only my half. But then he very kind of reserved is just like, everything burns, you know, like this what does he say, this city deserves a higher level of criminal or whatever.
Like this Joker feels more intentional. The other Joker is more of that, they really leaned into that psychosis, like you don't really know where it's going, you don't know where it starts and where it ends. Whereas this, maybe there is a starting point, and there obviously is an end point, and it's just a bunch of games in the middle to like.
I honestly think this Joker had every moment figured out. I think Batman is doing nothing but trying to react to what he's doing, because that was the whole movie, was like him. You know, the boat thing had to be planned way long before. The trying to assassinate, you know, and Batman kept doing exactly what you kind of thought he would do, and he had a plan every time, down to like the Rachel and Harvey thing. I think his plan day one was like, I'm going to take this Harvey guy and I'm going to turn him into, you know, a villain, basically.
Right.
And everyone's going to see that, like, no, there is no salvation and everything is just, you know, everyone's
and there's
just
no
dirty.
team. Like, there's no team for Joker. Like, it's Joker.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, he doesn't really play
He teams
for
up
anyone.
with the gangsters and then betrays all of them right away.
Yeah, like, there's no team. Like, it's...
Which that's the thing, too. Him trying to relate. If anything, there was maybe a team. It almost seems like he wants to convince. I think his real golden goose he wants is Batman. When he tells him in the thing, he's like, you know, Batman, what does he say? He's like, you're a criminal who blah, blah, blah. And he was like, nah, don't try to talk like them. You'll never be one of them, no matter how bad you want to be. It's like, I think it's like, you're like me, you know, and I really, really appreciate that. So,
yeah.
So, yeah, that's...
Cool.
The Dark Knight. Yeah.
The Dark Knight.
Did you like it?
I did.
I like this one too.
This will be in one of my top movies, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really high up for me too.
Just in general, like this was a good movie.
Yeah, this is in my, especially for comic book movies, this might be my number 3.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's quite strong, and performances. I think just Christopher Nolan's style. You know, having seen him do like Inception, it's a guy who is kind of known for doing like real movies. So when he came to go do a comic book movie, he didn't just try to like, you know, half butt it and be like, you know, oh, it's just, you know, comic book movie for kids. He seems like he treated it with all the same seriousness that he would treat like an Inception.
There's a hockey pad comment?
Yeah,
Was
when he's
that a
talking.
jab at the original Batman?
Oh, I never thought about that. I mean, it totally
Because they
could
come
be.
on ice skates?
Yeah, so that absolutely could be. Yeah,
Okay, I was just curious.
What's funny about that Batman is that was already the fourth Batman in the line.
He's like, yeah, well, the difference between me and you is
I'm not wearing hockey pads.
I'm not wearing hockey pads. And I was like, that sounds like that might be a jab.
No,
at the Batman I loved growing up.
I think you could be totally right. I think, like I said, I never thought about it till you watched it again recently, but I still really think that there's a possibility that he purposefully, as a throwback to like the 60s campy Batman, was like, I'll have it where the villains are poisoning the water supply, because that's such a like 60s, like, oh no, Batman, they poison the water supply. Yeah. But it's done so seriously and given to you little piece by piece that you don't really ever realize how kind of goofy that idea is and how hacky and old it is. But when you think about it like on a top-down level, you're kind of like, yeah, that is kind of like an old goofy, like, oh, I'm gonna poison the water, make everyone go crazy. Like, it is kind of silly. So yeah. All right, cool. So next up on the docket, Miss Maple here is going to be watching Spider-Man Homecoming. So
yeah, I forgot.
Get stoked for that. So you can finally get excited about the character you guys are all crazy about. So.
I know. Sorry, I don't love him as much yet. I still need an opportunity.
Exactly right.
Please give me some time.
All right, love you guys.
Bye.
Bye.